Morgen should defend your time. Timeto is one more way. In this case, teams can actually simplify that. And the coolest part is that really, this is going to be the first time we are able to open to the public the very same infrastructure that we use to power Morgen through the possibility of building your own custom automation.
This is a conversation I had with David about Morgen, the new product Timeto, and potential integrations with Obsidian. I mean, you can already link between an Obsidian note inside of Morgen, but there could be more in store.
Thanks a lot, Danny, for having me. I'm David, CEO and co-founder of Morgen.
Why would someone want to use Morgen?
So somebody may want to use Morgen just because it helps them avoid going to switch between tabs to check calendars, project management tool, tasks. It simplifies the way you can time block. It integrates in all of these consolidated view of your time scheduler. And then, of course, there is the fact that this is already accessible across all of your devices. Doesn't matter if you are on Linux, Android, iOS, Windows, macOS, this is a universal experience.
I know we didn't prep for this, but what other applications do you know of that do the same sorts of thing as Morgen when it comes to cross-platform calendars?
I don't think there is any that is matching the level of consolidation across the number of services that we integrate with. I mean, happy to be proven wrong, but I'm not really aware of anybody.
So what makes Morgen different from all the other tools that are already out there? Fantastica is one that comes to mind.
It's really, for example, for the specific case of Fantastica, there's a lot of, if you Google or you're on Reddit, there are threads of what's a Fantastical for Windows, for example, right? And that is a very large slice of people out there that are forced by corporate on Windows or by choice, or, there's many reasons to use Windows over macOS, for example. And even if you have a MacBook or an iPhone, you might not have the counterpart, right? Desktop mobile, I mean. So that's, for example, one big differentiator. And this, again, is really coming out of our principles, what we really want to bring to life as a company. The idea is really, again, to be able to be on top of your time all the time and easily, right? So being cross-platform is one such requirement, right? The other thing is the level of integrations that we have with all calendars out there. Virtually, literally any calendar you can synchronize into Morgen, synchronize and manage actively into Morgen, but also the fact that we're bringing in more and more integrations on the tasks or, video conferencing tools and other services that we built on top of all this, for example, the scheduler. So this is having that one dashboard that allows you to be on top of your time, rather than having every time you add one more tool to your stack, you ended up fragmenting it further rather than enhancing it comprehensively, right? So the idea is really to bring to life this one tool.
You've got 3 plans currently as we're making this. Who do you think each plan is for when it comes to Morgen?
I really believe the free plan is to just, to get started with the experience and see what's the potential with this. There's a lot of people that already benefit from the free plan as is, and they don't have other needs. Then, of course, as you go into the paid tiers, as you start using it more and more on more of a professional setting, I would say. Like, definitely the packaging and the pricing reflects that. So it's really, as you start integrating with more services and you are really using it more on a professional setup, like to juggle a lot of calendars, all of your integrations and stuff, or even if you want to white label the scheduler, the scheduling links, these are like with your own brand. These are really clear indications of you using this on a professional setup. And that's when the paid tier kicks in.
I would say the free plan to me is like perfect for students. Like, what do you think the pro plan has that the free plan doesn't have that would move business owners away from the free plan? Or can business owners just use the free plan?
One very simple rule, something that's very often done out there in productivity software, but also in other verticals, is as soon as you try to connect an account that has a professional domain, so not the classic @google.com or @outlook.com, then you would have to pay, right? So at the moment, we do not do this. We thought about it. We decided to postpone this. We might end up there, but we are not really, this isn't something that we have done at the moment at all. And especially for academia and NGOs, we have a special discount program. So like, this is probably also something that helps them getting on board a little more easily sometimes, but we see quite a few of academics and NGOs too. On the paid tiers, I mean.
Yeah, I'm curious, is your user base sort of cross-platform, or do you see a Linux Windows bias? That's my guess.
With respect to the market distribution of Linux, we have a lot of, our distribution is a little bit more skewed towards Linux than the normal distribution in the market. Our user base is dominated by Windows and Mac OS for sure.
So moving on to the mobile app, I must admit I love the mobile app, and since I've been working this new job, I've been like living on it. It's been managing all of my time. But tell us a bit more about it.
Morgen, these applications, right, to be on top of your time, were born as a desktop first experience, right? We were really having in mind knowledge workers, so those people that spend a lot of time thinking, and these days really translates into in front of your computer. So we built everything as a desktop first experience to start with, but then we realized pretty quickly, thanks to a lot of feedback from users, really from the community, and a lot of feedback from you too, obviously, that the mobile app was quite important, right? And that's a no-brainer. So we started investing on mobile. Now we have a fairly solid beta. There are a lot of things that we need to improve before going for general availability. But this is really, the idea is really to expand the capabilities of mobile.
So what is the plan for it moving forwards?
Yeah, so the idea, widget also is something that we just introduced recently, right? And we got a lot of very good feedback from the community and our Discord community too. And that has been very helpful. Obviously, it takes a second to prioritize everything we're doing. And we also been hiring quite a lot recently. So this is obviously going to speed up a lot of the development. But at the same time, it took away some time from us in this recent couple of, in the last few weeks. So, but the idea is really to double down on the widgets, to double down on the functionalities that the mobile app already has, and to improve the overall experience. Dedicated task list widget, more flexibility for the calendaring widget. These are all things that are top of mind when it comes to the mobile app.
How does Morgen Tasks plan to move forwards? Because traditionally time is, it's a calendar app, it's like events, but you've got tasks, which I love, by the way. Where's the plans moving forwards with them?
Well, we definitely want to enhance the tasks experience. We are not very far from releasing a subtask feature for Morgen tasks. And that's already there to a certain extent for the integrations. We want to bring these also to the Morgen tasks, of course. We are going to soon introduce intelligence for supporting people better scheduling their tasks, and especially creating suggestions when disruptive events happen and you don't get to the tasks you have scheduled, stuff like this. These are definitely something that we are going to bring to life pretty soon. This ties in also onto this new product that we're bringing to life, that is Timeto.
Will the features of Todoist tasks and Google Tasks mimic Morgen Tasks, or is Morgen Tasks more of a priority?
Right now we are investing on improving the Morgen tasks. And as we go forward, the idea is really to bring forward our vision in terms of what tasks prioritization should look like, right? And then for us, all other integrations are just other sources of tasks. The idea is really not to go and try to accommodate the specific task list application. You get tasks, right? They come, a big list of integrations that we're gonna work on next is project management tools, right? So Notion used as a project management tool, ClickUp, Monday.com, GitHub, GitLab for developers, Obsidian as well, like all of these different things. The idea is we use these as an input of tasks. Then within Morgen, the idea is that you are going to be able to optimally prioritize things, schedule them, just act on them, and Morgen should defend your time against whatever happens. And then if something disruptive happens, or for whatever reason you can't get to things when you schedule them, help you and support you in improving this. But we'll probably start from the Morgen experience with this, and then use everything else as just more elements to add to your calendar. So that's the idea.
With the integration, in your mind, do you have it so that it appears in Morgen, you tick it off, and it ticks off in Morgen and the whatever integrated app it is?
This is what's implemented at the moment, but the idea is one thing that is very peculiar to integrations for the tasks is that we will probably bring in more flexibility. so that you can decide what happens, right? A classic example of these are tasks that come from GitLab or GitHub for developers. If you have a large issue you have scheduled, right? Like, or you're assigned a big work item, then you might need to schedule multiple slots. And even when all these things are done, because your job is done, you are done developing the code, right? And that's how you schedule your slots. The thing isn't really closed. It needs to be, the code needs to be reviewed. You're going to need to get back to it and all these things, right? So that will require some level of flexibility in saying if a task is coming from, for example, GitHub, don't automatically close the corresponding issue on GitHub the moment I'm done with all the slots in Morgen, right? So there needs to be some flexibility.
When it comes to connecting to something like Notion or Obsidian, where it's essentially just text, or so I'm thinking of a task block rather than database property, how would that work for Morgen? Because Morgen, I would imagine, is going to need sort of date information.
There's our backend is quite complex because it needs to handle a lot of different things. Even if we just talk about calendars, which you might think reasonably, or that everything is exactly the same. And it's very easy, right? There's a lot of work that goes into ironing out all the kinks. And then, even just integrating broadly with CalDAV providers, almost every CalDAV provider has their own implementation of the standard. It varies slightly, but that slight variation is the reason why there's nobody other than us that does this. So, it's this is just to give an example of how much effort really needs to go into these kind of things, right? And then when you talk about tasks, there is even less of a standard. There's actually there's a DAV standard for tasks as well, but for what I know, is not as broadly adopted as for calendars. And then then it means that basically we're just gonna have to do our proper job and make sure that regardless of what's the source, we can do the right thing.
What's the plan for team tasks and just team stuff in Morgen in general?
There's actually absolutely no way to assign tasks properly at the moment, but you can get around visualizing tasks. For example, if somebody creates a dedicated calendar for tasks within their calendar account, and then they share that with you, and then you can easily filter in and out, for example, right? So this is what we see happening. But the plan also is eventually to expand more and more of the backend infrastructure of Morgen to Teams. And a very first solid step in this is this new project, Timeto, this new product, Timeto. And Timeto is going to be all about smart automations for teams. So not directly the task management side of things to start with, but eventually we plan on doing this, because really among these smart automations, there's going to be inheriting, for example, priorities and interdependencies from project management tools from external sources. And when you schedule your things in Morgen, then we would see whether you are actually blocking somebody. You might risk to block somebody else by prioritizing that work item over another one that their work depends on, right? So things like this. And then as we are going into these complex dynamics, then a natural step is to make sure that Morgen tasks are also going into the team direction.
Will Timeto help with task dependencies or event dependencies in some way?
Yes, absolutely. That's really one of the goals. Timeto is this platform that we are launching on Product Hunt on Tuesday. And the idea is really to serve to users a series of smart automations that they can easily enable, possibly customize, and deploy to run and support their entire team on what's time management, right? Again, as I said before, too much time goes into managing time. Timeto is one more way. In this case, teams can actually simplify that, right? Very pragmatically, the things that we're after with Timeto are, for example, make sure that we can increase focus time for everybody, reduce disruptive meetings, help with reprioritizing and rescheduling tasks when there are disruptive events happening, any kind of disruptive event. And the coolest part is that really, this is going to be the first time we are able to open to the public the very same infrastructure that we use to power Morgen, the app of Morgen, through the possibility of building your own custom automation. I think that's very exciting, because that's where a lot of people can just come in, a lot of teams can just come in and build their own automations around time management.
Similar to like a Zapier type thing or an Integromat type thing, or is it more developer code heavy? You need to understand what some code language is.
Our focus is really going to be on software development teams and product teams to start with. And the very first version of the customizable automations is going to require some development skills. This being said, all the other, we actually came up through literally thousands of discussions with the current Morgen users with a series of off-the-shelf automations that we are building for our users, and these require zero development skills. But the custom side of things will require some development skills at the beginning.
Is this kind of like an opening of the door to an add-on plugin style thing where you can use other maybe community plugins?
Absolutely. So the idea is that every automation can be will be possible to be shared within your team or with the larger community. The idea is even to make a lot of these, especially the entire automations realm, quite open source eventually. Right now, we are launching just the waiting list for Timeto on Product Hunt, and we are still developing it. We are gonna start thinking of how we're gonna open source different portion of the project once we are a little more ready for general availability. So like to opening up to everybody, not just to the waiting list, right? But this is absolutely the direction we are going. I want to say a month and a half, 2 months, we are going to start rolling it out for a few of for some of the teams in the waiting list. And then depending on feedback, depending on the iterations needed, from there, another month or so, maybe to the entire waiting list. And then eventually we will open it up to everybody.
What does it really mean? Like, what does Timeto do to my calendar? What buttons do I push? What does it change? What views am I going to see? That sort of thing.
One problem, that one of the off-the-shelf automations is going to be around helping teams to have less meetings on the way of their focus time. All you have to do is just say, we are on Monday, you want to do it on Thursday. And it's good if it happens anytime between Thursday and Friday, right? So you just create the meeting, you mark it as flexible within the day and the day after, and that's all. You invite all the people. That's all you have to do. You fix it to the best of what you think about it, but you acknowledge to the system that it's okay if this happens a few hours before and a few hours after. Then at that point, what happens is that Timeto takes into consideration the schedule of everybody with the preferences of everybody and the time zones of everybody, and then optimizes this in a way that this fulfills all the constraints, right? So meaning it's going to check that maybe I have, let's say that we are in the team together, right? And for you slam the meeting in the middle of a prolonged amount of focus time I would have had, right? So at that point, what Timeto does is just recognizes that you are disrupting my flow, and that according to my constraints and everybody else's constraints, we could move the meeting to 2 hours prior, the time you schedule. This works for everybody according to their preferences, again, time zones, lunchtime, whatever it is really. And then it automatically reschedules the meeting for you so that I don't get my focus time broken down into 2 chunks because of the meeting happening in the middle of it. And everybody else is happy as well. And the meeting is still happening either on Thursday or Friday, according to your preference.
How does Timeto know that that's your focus time? Is it looking for a task? Is it looking for an event? Or have you set sort of times in your Morgen or in your calendar? How does it know?
So to start with, the Timeto is going to be fully independent of Morgen, meaning you're going to specify through in Timeto directly that you are that you want to have focus time, for example, preferably in the afternoon or certain specific slots, right? And then what Timeto is going to pick up is on this, right? So you specify everything within Timeto. Eventually, the plan is obviously to integrate Timeto and Morgen tightly. And then at that point, Timeto is going to pick up on other signals, like, for example, whether there is a task and what's the priority of the task, other things like this, in order to reshuffle things around. So this is like more of the medium-term vision, not even that far in time, actually. But it really, at first, we want to focus on being able to deliver this to teams without having to require them to actually install Morgen and get Morgen set up. But eventually, one of our first integration is going to be with Morgen, for sure.
So does everyone in the team have to be using Timeto?
Ideally, yes. So it might work also with a subset of the team. Some things might work also on just with a subset of the team on board. But then, of course, if it works best if the entire team is on board, because then Time2 is capable of actually assessing the situation for everybody. Like, just to give you an example, you on board as the admin, right? And then you invite all of us, the other 4 people, to join Time2. We all join, and in doing this, we all connect our work calendar, right? And then you as the admin have enabled that focus time optimization, right? That's the focus time automation. Then one more thing we will all be able to do is, for example, automatically propagate or automatically block into our work calendar things that come from our personal calendar if we want to, right? So as I onboard as an individual of that team, I will be able to enable also this other automation. That's I'm just gonna have to connect my personal calendar too and say, every time there's something, just take this and create a blocker that mirrors this, right? And that's basically also gonna add more blockers to the calendar to make sure, you know, you don't set up a meeting, or Time2 doesn't re-optimize the schedule and puts a meeting when I'm supposed to go to the dentist, or I don't know, play a tennis match with a friend or whatever, right?
I was thinking of the exact same personal example.
Okay, these things are going to be able very soon, and across all calendars, not just Google Calendar like other people are doing already out there, but it's you know, across Outlook, Exchange, and any other calendar.
What is the privacy, security, and I guess longevity of Morgen like?
It's been since the very beginning, being a project that was born out of academia, a very, very hot topic for us and a very big focus. Actually, moving forward, we are gonna prioritize pretty soon going into all the security certificates that like the standard ones like SOC 2 Type 1, Type 2, the ISO certificate, and others. And basically the idea is to also have a public dashboard that lets anybody check what's the status of all the things we do from a security perspective. Everything really, down to the policies that we implement on development, and you know, how well protected are all of the machines that are used to develop Morgen. Everything is going to be publicly exposed so that everybody can go and check.
Are you community focused? Are you backed by who, what? Sort of, what's the security of future Morgen?
Absolutely. So we are venture backed already. We raised, this is public knowledge, and you know, anybody can go on Crunchbase and check our list of investors and everything. And we are, we're venture backed. We, among our investors, we cherry-picked specifically one person, an angel investor that has a very strong security background, both being an entrepreneur in the space first, and then having worked in a large big tech company that I'm not going to mention, but so they worked there for a while, for almost 10 years as directors and in the security space. So we, you know, again, to show that we really care about security and privacy, depending on how things go and with the development and the growth, we are likely to raise again, because to accelerate and really the idea is to not be stopped by, or to not be slowed down by the rate at which we grow. But once we know we really nail things and we have a clear picture of what we need to develop next, we want to be able to scale the team quite fast. This very exercise we're doing now, developing Time2 next to Morgen, keep investing in Morgen, really is thanks to the money we raised, so which allow us to hire faster than we could otherwise. I just want to be very clear with all Morgen users, right, that Morgen is not going anywhere. As I mentioned before, maybe it's going to be cut, maybe not, who knows, but we have hired quite a few people and we will keep investing in Morgen. Time2 is, even though it is at the moment is really a separate product, is an evolution of our vision in terms of what we want to bring to life to help people not waste so much time managing their time. What's the coolest part of the UI of Time2 is that anything that you plug in and anything that runs, any automation you run is going to generate a bunch of insights that help you understand how things are moving around, why you get some suggestions in moving things around, and help increasing the awareness of everybody. But other than that component, everything is mostly going to happen directly in the very calendar you're using. Whether you are using your Outlook calendar given by your company that you use with the team directly in Outlook, you're still going to be able to benefit from Time2 without having to go to open another app. You can just work there. And then if you're using that very same Outlook calendar synchronized and managed into Morgen, you will be able to use Timeto equivalently without an explicit integration, because really it's something that runs in the background.